What's up, guys? This is Benny Ricciardi with EliteSportsBetting.com, and I'm back for the next episode of our Better Education series. Today, we're going to talk about something that's a good way to help you build your bankroll, and that's how to maximize the bonus offers that you're going to receive from all these different websites. Being somebody who was, alive and lived through the poker boom and then lived through the DFS boom of the last 5 years or so, I've actually seen this firsthand and been able to take advantage of it. One of the best ways to help you build a bankroll as a new player is to take advantage of all these bonuses and maximize the opportunity that you're giving yourself to get some upside. If you're able to get the most upside out of all these bonuses, you're going to have a nice little bankroll when you have to go out on your own and you no longer have that safety net under you to be able to go out there and try to make some money. So in this video, we're going to teach you how to maximize these bonus offers. There's different types of bonus offers that different sites are going to offer you. And I want to show you how to take advantage of each one to be able to maximize the amount of money that you're taking and get the most you can out of these free money that they're offering. The first kind that we're going to talk about is the slow drip bonus. Then we're going to talk about first bet refund bonuses. Then we're going to talk about bonus multipliers where you have a playthrough requirement. And finally, we're going to talk about profit boost bonuses. So the first one up is the slow drip bonus. A slow drip bonus is awarded based on your deposit amount. It is then distributed based on your level of play. So the more you bet, the faster you earn the bonus. This is something that we see on DraftKings is what they offer right now if you play on the DraftKings Sportsbook. You put in $500, they match your $500 with the opportunity to earn another $500 based on your play. Very often you see these things are like a 10-to-1 to a 25-to-1 ratio. Meaning that for every $10 you bet, or like DraftKings, every $25 you bet, you get $1 of that bonus release. So in order for you to get that whole $500 bonus released at a 10-to-1 ratio, you would have to make $5,000 in bets, and the money would be slowly released as you're making those bets to get up to that $5,000 mark. At a 25-to-1 ratio, you'd have to make $12,500 in bets in order to get the full, $500 bonus that's coming out there at a 25-to-1 rate, which is what it is over on DraftKings. And that sounds like a lot, but if you're somebody who's betting every day, you'll see that those numbers add up. A couple $100 every day, you're earning $4, $5, $6 of that bonus on a daily basis. Eventually you get to a point where you look up and you're like, oh, wow, I'm almost completely done with my bonus. Maybe you make one or two big bets along the way where, you drop $1,000 on something, or you make a couple $500 bets on something. And, those really do add up. You're getting a lot of your bonus out of that at one time. On a $1,000 bet, you're getting $40. On a $500 bet, you're getting $20 of that bonus released at a time. You make a couple of those over the course of 2 or 3 months that it takes you to get this slow drip bonus, and you wind up getting it. You wind up getting there, at the end of the day. Now, the best way to maximize your advantage with these kind of slow drip bonuses is to make sure you put in the maximum amount of money that the bonus is going to be. So again, to use DraftKings as an example, because they're the one off the top of my head that I know uses the slow drip bonus. If the maximum amount of money that they'll give you is a match of $500 on $500 deposited, then make sure you deposit that $500 to get the maximum bonus there. You're going to wind up making those bets over time, especially if you're somebody who's, betting on a pretty regular basis. So it's just best for you to maximize what you're going to get. Even if you're not somebody who makes $500 bets on every time you have an edge or you feel like you want to put money out, make the investment to put that money in to get the maximum that you can on the bonus, because at the end of the day, it's only going to help your overall ROI. So the next one we're going to talk about is the first bet refund bonus. Basically, the way that this works is if you lose the first bet that you make, the site will issue you a credit for whatever the amount of that losing bet. Some sites have a cap of $250 on this. Some sites have a cap of $500. Whatever the maximum bonus you can get if you lose. I know MGM Bet and actually DraftKings Playbook as well. We're both using this type of bonus where if you lost your first bet, you would get that first bet refunded up to like $500. If that's the case, then that first bet that you make should be that same $500 maximum that they're allowing you to have there, because they're basically giving you a free bet up to that amount of money. Now, the site credit is often not cash, but it's a free bet in that amount. And I think this is a very key point people need to understand. So, for example, let's say I make a $500 deposit into DraftKings and take advantage of their $500, first bet refund if I lose. If I win that first bet, let's say I take something that's even money to make it easy for you guys to see this. You bet 500, you would win 500 if it winds up winning, right? So if I make that initial $500 bet and that bet wins, I'm going to walk away with $1,000, my initial $500 bet, and then the 500 in profit I made for that being an even money bet, 1-to-1 plus 100 odds. The site credit that they give you, though, is not the same as the $500 bet. So let's say I lose that first bet that I made at even money. So I bet 500, I got plus 100 odds on it. The bet that I made lost. Now I make that same bet again with the free site credit that they give me for $500. I make a $500 bet. I'm getting the same plus 100 odds, so my $500 bet would win 500. At the end of the day, I don't get to keep the site credit. I only get to keep the profit that site credit made me. So my initial bet was 500 and I lost. I got the site credit back. I bet that on something that's even money and I won. I put in 500 and at the end of the day, I only have 500 because I don't get to keep that $500 from the site credit that I bet. It was just a free bet in that amount and I only get to keep the white meat. And I think people really need to understand that because a lot of times I see people taking minus 110 or, taking something that's even money when they get in one of these situations. It's not the best way to maximize your potential to make a profit off of this and really build a bankroll for yourself to go on and move forward. So what I'm going to teach you guys right now is something that I call Benny's plus 200 theory. And this is basically what I do whenever I am offered a first bet refund bonus. So the initial bet that I'm going to make, I make that $500 deposit. My initial bet is going to be on something that has a line of plus 200. So I want a plus 200 underdog for whatever the maximum amount of that refund bet is. So if it's a $500 one, like we talked about in the DraftKings example, depositing $500, making a $500 bet on something that's plus 200. If I win that bet, I'm going to get back $1,500. I'm going to get the $500 that I bet would come back into my account. Plus, I'm also going to get paid 2-to-1 on the $500 bet that I made that actually won, which is going to be another $1,000. So $1,000 that I won plus the $500 that I bet. So I'm going to end up with $500 in my account if that first bet wins. Now, something that's plus 200 has a 33% chance of winning. So 1 out of 3 times, I'm going to bet that $500 and I'm going to end up getting back $1,500 or making $1,000 on my money. Now, the next thing I want everybody to understand is if I'm going to win that bet 1 out of 3 times, that means I'm also going to lose that initial bet 2 out of 3 times or 66% of the time. But I'm going to get a free site credit for that $500 that I lost on the first bet that I made. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing with that other $500 credit that I got, and I'm going to put it on another plus 200 favorite. Now, again, plus 200 favorite means it's going to win 1 out of 3 times. So 33% of the time, I'm going to win my first bet. 66% of the time, I'm going to lose it. Now, when I get the site credit, that other 66% of the time that I'm able to use the site credit, I'm going to win 1 out of 3 of those bets at plus 200 as well. So 1 out of 3 on 66% would be another 22% of the time I'm going to win that bet. So now when I win that bet, though, it's not going to pay me the same $1,500. What it's going to do is it's going to give me the winnings on that $500 credit that I bet. So at 2-to-1, a $500 credit, that would wind up paying me $1,000. So 33% of the time that I employ this theory of putting in $500, I'm going to walk away with $1,500. 22% of the time that I put in this $500, I'm going to walk away with $1,000. So at a minimum, if you take that 33% chance that you win on the first time, the 1 out of 3 at plus 200, and you add it to the 22% chance that you're going to win on the second time at $1,000, that means that at least 55% of the time you do this, you're going to double your money or better. So you have more than a 50-50 chance of putting in $500 and doubling it with a 33% chance of actually tripling that money out of that, 55 that's there. It's the way that I like to go about doing it. If you have a big enough bankroll where you could handle, instead of winning 1/3 of the time, if you can handle winning 1 out of 10 times, or 1 out of 20 times on these bets, it is actually best for you to get something with the biggest, longest odds and just keep doing it over and over and over again until that one time where everything does wind up clicking and you make that big score. I mean, let's face it, if you're going to do something that's a plus 900 and you're going to put $500 on it, you're going to turn that $500 into $5,000. And again, 1 out of 9 means it would happen 10% of the time. With a free bet, if you did it again, it would be 10% of 90% or 9. So 19% of the time, you're going to wind up ending up with, 10 times the money that you started with. The problem is you have to be able to handle the fact that you're going to lose, at a minimum, probably 9 of those 10 times. That's why I like doing the plus 200, because it's really like a 50-50 proposition, right? At a 55% chance of doubling your money, if you do this twice, at least one of those 2 times, it should work out where you get $1,000. Now, again, small sample sizes, you could wind up picking 4 plus 200 losers in a row, which can definitely happen. But we're just looking at the odds overall. If you do this over and over and over and over and over again, 55% of the time that you do this, you're going to wind up doubling your money, which is going to put you in a good position more often than not, considering that you're above 50% and you're more than doubling your money at a minimum, with a chance to actually even triple your money 33% of that time. I know the math there seems a little wonky, but basically what I want you guys to take away from this is, if you get an opportunity to have a bet being matched, don't waste that opportunity on a minus 110 bet or even an even money bet. The thing to do is find something that's paying plus 200 or so. That's where you really want to be making your investment, not only for your first try, but even if you lose that first try and you get that free bet, you want to be doing something around plus 200 on your second bet. And in the long run, you're going to wind up making money and building a bankroll more often than you're going to wind up, going broke and losing that $500, at least according to the math here. Now, again, luck plays into it. You got to have a big enough sample size for this to work. I don't want you to just do it once and say, oh, Benny told me I'm going to make $1,000 if I do this. The odds are in your favor that 55% of the time you are, which still means 45% of the time you're going to lose. But again, that means if you do it twice, at least once you should wind up hitting it, although, you can go on a bad streak and lose 3 or 4 of these in a row before you wind up hitting 2 or 3 of them in a row to put yourself back above even. So the next thing we're going to talk about is a bonus multiplier with a playthrough. You see this a lot of times on some of the offshore books. And basically, here's how this works, right? You get an instant match on your deposit that you're available to use to play right away. So you don't have to worry about winning free bets or slow drips or anything like that. You put in 500, they give you another 500, you have $1,000 to play with right there, right off the bat, day one as soon as you make the deposit. But as everything in life, there's a catch here. And the catch on a lot of these is that in order for you to make a withdrawal and to take money out, you have to play 10 to 25 times whatever your deposit was that you could withdraw. So a lot of people look at it the same way. It's like, what's the plus EV way to go and play this? Really, if you're taking that $1,000 and just trying to keep making $100 bets over and over and over and over and over and over again until you get up to, $5,000, your $500 investment times 10, or $12,500, $500 investment times 25, there's a good chance you're going to go broke before you wind up paying it all off and being able to withdraw the money. If you're going to take one of these bonuses, you basically have to say, I'm going to play this to try to hit a home run and really build up a big bankroll and then take something out. So here was I was listening or reading an article where I saw an interesting theory about how to do this. And I 100% am on board with it because the math works out where it's probably your most plus EV way to do it. So here's the example. You put in a $500 deposit, you get that $500 match. You wind up with $1,000 that you can play with now. So what you're going to do is you're going to make $1,000 bet at plus 200. Again, 1 out of 3 times this bet is going to win for you. When it does win, you're going to have $3,000. The $1,000 that you bet, the $2,000 in profit that you won by getting 2 to 1 on that bet. So now you turn around and do the same thing again. You go all in. You take that $3,000 that you just won there, and you bet something else that's plus 200. If you hit it, which is going to happen 11% of the time, because again, 33% of the time you're going to hit that first bet, and then 1 out of 3% of the time, 1 out of 3 times again, you're going to hit that second bet. So that's 11% of the time you're going to wind up with $9,000 from an initial investment of $5,000. Now at that point, you made a $1,000 bet, you made a $3,000 bet. So you have $4,000 in total bets so far. If you're playing 10 times your, your initial $500 deposit, then you basically just have to make $1,000 worth of bets with that $9,000, and you could walk away with your money. You win half, you lose half. You're probably going to walk away with like $8,900 out of that, and that's going to happen 1 out of 9 times. If you're playing on a site where you have to make $12,500 in bets, which would be 25 times your initial deposit of $500, what I like to do on these sites is, all right, now you have a bankroll. Now you have a $9,000 bankroll that you basically grew from a $500 investment that you made. So what you can do now is, now you can just kind of play it safe. You're going to make 85 more $100 bets. And, assuming that you have around a 50% win-loss rate, you're going to lose about the 4% of hold that, the sites take on the bets there. So, a good way to explain this is like, when you win at minus 110, you win $91. When you lose at minus 110, you lose $100. So if you have, about 42 wins and 43 losses, you're going to wind up saying, all right, 42 times $191, which is the $91 I win when I take something at minus 110, like Jets -3 or Giants +2 or Dallas Cowboys +5. Those are all going to be minus 110 bets. So if you make 85 of those, you're probably going to wind up losing about 4%. So 85 bets at $100 each is $8,500. You lose about 4 or 5% of that. You're going to end up with about $8,000. You still have 500 left over that you didn't bet from the 9,000. So now what you basically did is you took a $500 initial investment, and 1 out of 9 times you're going to turn it into $8,500 on the back end. Now that's a really good return, because if you figure, even if you lose the other 8 times, the 8 times you lose $500. 500 times 8 is $4,000. The 1 out of 9 times that you win, you end up with $8,400, which covers the $4,000 that you lost in the other 8 times and gives you a profit of, $4,500. Now again, you may wind up losing 10 or 11 times in a row doing this before you finally get a hit. So you got to be able to handle the fact that you're losing $500 10 or 11 times, or that you have a minus $5,000 overall on your gambling if you're trying to do this. But the numbers do work out that sooner or later you're going to make a score, and when you do make that score, it's going to pay off more often than the amount of times that you're wrong by going with the strategy that I'm talking about here. So again, this is something that if you can only afford to lose, $500 or $1,000 gambling, probably not the bonus you want to take advantage of. But if you're somebody who has a decent sized bankroll, or you have money to burn and you're just trying to build a bigger bankroll, this is the way that I would go about doing it if you're playing on one of those bonus sites with multipliers and a playthrough. So now the last one is probably the easiest one for me to talk about here, and that's just a straight profit boost bonus. The way that these things work is a site will say, we'll give you a boost on your payout of a win of X%, 10%, 20%, 30%. I've seen some of them as big as 50% on a bet that you can make. A lot of times they're going to cap the amount of money you can bet on it though. Like, we'll give you a 50% bonus on your first $50 bet or your first $100 bet or something. Because honestly, they're giving you basically free money here. So they're not going to give you an unlimited amount of money that you can bet, where you can basically just, rape the site for a huge payout here. But again, taking advantage of these little things as they go along is a good way to help you guys build your bankroll. So you should definitely take advantage with the profit boost bonus of every single one of these things offered, regardless of if you have a strong opinion on what they're being offered on or not. So here's an example for you, right? A typical line of a NFL football game, Jets +3, Giants +4, whatever it is, minus 110 line pays 91 cents per dollar. So if you can get a 10% profit boost on that, basically what you're getting is an even money bet. And an even money bet is a coin flip, which is why I said you should take every one of these that's offered if you can get more than a 10% bonus on a minus 110 line. Because if you flip a coin 100 times, it's probably going to end up on heads 50. It's going to end up on tails 50. The problem with sports books that most people don't realize is when you win, you don't win as much as you lose when you lose. So like I said, on this example here, minus 110, when you're right, you get 91 cents back per dollar bet. When you're wrong, you lose the whole dollar. So eventually, if you bet long enough, the little bit of rate that they're taking out is going to make you go broke. But if you can make all these lines even money on both sides, theoretically, it's just like flipping a coin. And therefore, You could flip a coin all day and you're probably just giving me $1 because I won here, giving you $1 back because you won. I had heads, you had tails. I had heads, you had tails. And the money just goes back and forth, and you basically keep the amount of money that you have. Now, in sports betting, we try to pick out the lines that we think we have an edge on. So if your edge is worth anything and you're betting at even money, then you should be able to create a profit, because that little edge that you have, even if that edge is only worth a quarter of a point or a half of a point, if all the bets that you're making are at even money, in the long run, you're going to wind up winning. So that's why if you can get even a 10% boost, you should bet it, even if it's not something that you have a strong opinion on, because you're basically just betting on the flip of a coin at that point. Now, here's where you can really start making some money. Anything above a 10% boost, and you're basically getting paid better than even money on the flip of a coin at a -110 line. So, for example, let's say we were flipping coins back and forth, and every time I called heads and I was wrong, I gave you $1. But every time I called heads and I was right, you gave me $1.50. Now, we know that sooner or later, at the end of the day, we're probably both going to win 50 times if we flip the coin 100 times. But on your 50 wins, you won $1, so you got $50. On my 50 wins, I won $1.50 each time, so I have $75. And that's the way that these bonuses work here. You're basically getting paid more than even money to take a coin flip on something that's a 110 line. You know, you might be getting paid, in our example here, you're getting paid plus 150 on a line that should be -110. Even with a 30% profit boost, you're getting paid basically like plus 120 on a line that should be -110. If you can keep getting plus 120 on something that's a 50-50 coin flip, again, you don't even have to be right more often than not. You could actually even lose 51% of those flips and win 49% of those flips, and you're still going to wind up with a profit if you're getting paid more than even money. So anytime you can get yourself more than even money on a bet that should be even money, which is what we like to call a flip of a coin because it's a true 50-50 proposition, you're going to end up as a profitable player in the long run. So literally, anytime you see a profit bonus offered, if it's on, Norwegian soccer and you know nothing about it, if it's more than a 10% bonus, you should still take a crack at betting on that. If it's on table tennis in Moscow, take a crack at betting on that. Because even if you're just flipping a coin or throwing a dart, if you're getting paid more than even money, even if you have no knowledge, no edge, know nothing about that sport, if you do it long enough over the long haul, you're going to end up winning more than you lose with these profit bonuses. And that basically sums it up for us here about, everything that we wanted to talk about with these profit bonuses. One of the little known secrets in all of these sports, whether we're talking about online poker boom, whether we're talking about the DFS boom of the last couple of years, or the present and current, gambling boom that's about to happen over the next few years, these sites are taking in private equity money left and right. And they look at these profit bonuses and things like that, these deposit bonuses and profit bonuses and odds boost and things as marketing dollars that they're spending. Instead of going out there and spending, paying some commercial company, $10,000 to put together some ad campaign for them, they're basically giving the money directly to you. And a lot of guys who have come out on the plus side of the poker boom, of the daily fantasy boom, and I'm telling you right now, the guys that are going to come out on the plus side of this gambling boom right here are going to be the guys who take advantage of all this free money. Because if you're even remotely close to a profitable bettor and you're being able to get odds that are just basically you can't lose, there are people who are not profitable bettors that are going to wind up being on the right side of variance when you're getting an extra 30 or 40 cents to the dollar on the bets that you're making here, when you're getting reimbursed for losses that you have. So you're really getting two cracks at trying to hit one thing there. If you maximize the way you go about doing it, you're going to have a nice bankroll and you're going to learn a lot about sports betting and sports gambling, so that at the end of the day, when it does come time for you to be out there on your own without all these deposit bonuses and without all these boosters and everything else, you're not only going to have a nice bankroll that you built up over the time, but you're going to have gained the knowledge that you need to be able to go about it without all these bonuses and still be able to crank out a profit. So signing off for EliteSportsBetting.com, this is Benny Ricciardi with our next edition of A Better Education.